Total War has taken a strange direction since Rome 2, and I really think it is with Rome 2 that it went astray, because I keep finding these issues, these problems, and being able to go back to where they started, and even if they might have been there a little bit with Empire and then vanished with Shogun 2, they're definitely there with Rome 2. And the issue that I have at the moment is unit diversity, that term, because all of these latest Total War games have the same plague, and it's actually a reversal of the narrative that goes around with unit diversity. So I'm going to try and illustrate and help clear up something that's just apparently really ambiguous to most players, and I'm going to do it to make it relatable and easy to illustrate with Rome Total War, and I'm going to do it with one of the lapses that Rome Total War had, just a small one. It's not a big deal, it's not massive, but it's a good example, so I'm going to use it, and that is with Hastati and Principes in the Roman roster. So Julii against Brutii. So here they are. Hastati, 440 denarii, and you get 7 attack, 11 missile, 14 defense, 2 charge. And then in the campaign, you're meant to upgrade to Principes. That's how it works. You're meant to unlock Principes and then stop making Hastati and just make Principes instead, because 7, 11, 14, 2, 7, 11, 16, 2. And that is the main difference between them. Principes have better armor. So this does not follow how these units were actually used in the historical accounts and in the minds of people that know about them. People seem to know the general 3-line tactics that were deployed, that were utilised, where you would have Hastati at the front, younger and eager to prove themselves, Principes in the middle, older, better equipped, more disciplined to relieve the Hastati if it came to it, if the Hastati didn't break the enemy, and then falling back to the Triarii, of course, at the back line when things are getting ugly, when it's desperate. And that's the idiomatic expression, to fall back to the Triarii, that some people know. That's what it refers to. This system of 3 lines. And it's disappointing to a lot of players to realise that in Rome Total War, there's no reason to make Hastati if you have Principes. At the very least, there is almost no reason. There's very little reason, because the main difference is this 2 armor that Principes have. And I'm going to show you how they compare. So we're going to do Principes against Hastati on flat ground. Fair fight, fair controlled fight on normal difficulty, just to show the matchup.
Units on my order. Hastati, move out.
So here's the Hastati. They have their cloth armor, stitched leather or cloth. I think it's leather. And then you see what looks like a bronze plate here, or a steel plate. And then if you compare that to Principes, they have actual mail, a hauberk, a shirtless chainmail shirt that's parted at the groin. So yeah, it's visually represented. They're modelled differently. They have a different name, they have different model, and they have slightly different stats. And here's how the fight goes. They have the same shield. In game, the shields are the same, they look the same, and they have the same stats. Standard, emblazoned, Scutum, and of course the Gladius as well. So they have the same armament, the Gladius and the Pilum. They have the same shield, they just have different armor. And that's pretty much it. There's a few other things, but I'll get into them later. Reloading, they're going to reload first. No, it's about the same time, good. And they have another man, 162. Or down to 144. So already we're at a slight disadvantage. Losing very slightly. And I like how you can just look right across the line. Oh, and they did a second volley. Alright, we're doing a second volley. They cheated and they did a second fucking volley with the Pila. Oh man, that fucks the test up. How did they get to do that? Is that because of guard mode? I might have to do this again. Yeah, he's gone. Alright, they got the second volley of the Pila and we didn't, so I may have to do this again. Yeah, we're losing. 50 to 80 or 90. 40 to 70. Yeah.
Defeat is.
So they won with 70 left. Yep, alright, fight again. Yeah, so they had their advantage. You saw the armor giving them a lead. But it was that second volley that fucked up. So I'm gonna just keep doing this until I get a fair fight. I don't want them to do that. I think it's RNG whether they do that. Neither of us are running. We walk until we're within range, and then we ready the Pila, toss it, and charge. Now they're running. Oh shit. Yeah, they're doing it first. But we tossed it at about the same time, and we did better. We did better with the Pila toss. So we had a slight advantage going into the fight, and we still have it, but it's getting smaller. So it's evening out now, and they're now favourites to win. Distinct possibility, balance of forces is evenly matched. So this will be a good test. This shows that even if we do better with the Pila toss, they still managed to win the fight.
Your general has thrown away his life, and now he feeds the carrion birds.
And they have a lead.
His men may soon be bird food too.
Alright, fast forwarding. They didn't do the second volley. 80 to 90. Yeah, they won. Alright, so that shows that they are stronger in the melee. That's exactly what I wanted. That confirms it. And you would look at that and think it's the 2 armor that does that. So let's do this again. And how would you even this fight out? And look at that, the Hastati costs 440, Principes costs 490. So it looks like there's a 2 armor difference that costs an extra 50. So how can we even this fight? By doing that. And now they are statistically identical. See that? So now it's almost as if we have made Hastati into Principes, just like that. Even though it now costs 580 because of the way the cost system works with armor upgrades. These units look identical. 711, 16-2, 711, 16-2. So this looks like an even matchup. So that advantage that existed in the fights we had seems to be gone.
Do you see the puke-stained enemy?
So let's try again. And will this be interesting? Won't this be interesting how this goes? Because it's almost as if we have made Hastati into Principes. Imagine if we have. What does that say about these units? Still walking. Can I pause? Yep. 711 to 16. 711 to 16. And it's heavy. 7451. 7451. Missile weapon before charging, can't sap. Missile weapon before charging, can't sap. So these units are identical except they have an extra man. So the only thing that changes when I switch these is soldiers goes up by 1 and cost goes up by 50. But these units are identical. From here, it looks like these units are identical. They have a different model, but they have everything else the same from this side. From where I'm standing, it looks like these units are just identical. They're clones. That unit there, the Principes, is a reskin of this one, the Hastati. It's a reskin. That's what it looks like. And I'm running. So if I'm right, then this should be a completely even fight. This should be a mirror match. $141, $145. And they're reloading, god damn it. God damn it, they're gonna do it again. I'm doing it too, fuck it. I'm doing it as well. I'm doing it as well. Fuck you, I'm doing it too. And it worked. Alright, resume the fight. And it's perfectly even. Look at that. 115 to 115. We just did the exact same thing back to them. With guard mode. And halt. And we got to do it again. And this looks like it's really close. We're winning slightly. Isn't that interesting? We are winning. 100 to 90. Yep, it looks like we're winning. It looks like we're doing well. Fast forwarding. 90 to 70. To 60. 80 to 50. 70 to 40. 66 to 35. So something happened and we ended up winning.
Our army is victorious! A tribute to Roman strength and honor!
What is that noise? Oh man. I wanted to do a rematch. Fuck. But that shows that the apparent advantage is gone. So we managed to make Hastati into Principes. I think we did. Alright. Doing it again. And is this a good thing? Is it good that we can do that?
Units! On my orders!
And of course, do you think that's actually happened here? Have we just made Hastati and Principes clone units by giving Hastati extra armor to close the gap that seems to be the only apparent difference between the two units. Alright, go, 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 go. Yeah, this looks good. Oh man, a lot of them died there. We won the throne contest. We won it. And now it looks like we have an advantage in the melee. Fast forwarding. 125 to 110. 115 to 95. 110 to 90. 105 to 85. 100 to 80. 90 to 70. 90 to 60. 75 to 40. What is it that's going on here to give us the win? It is close, it is really close, and it's different from what used to
The
happen.
gods be praised!
Yeah, we won again.
Our army is victorious! A tribute to Roman strength!
So, from consistently losing to consistently winning, or at the very least, no longer losing, the advantage disappeared. So let's actually look at these units. Alright, Principes and Hastati. Here is how the units are defined. This is it. This is a side-by-side of these two units. Alright, side-by-side comparison, Hastati on the left, Principes on the right, and there are very few differences. The first difference of significance is where it says class light and class heavy. This doesn't actually affect combat performance, battlefield performance. What this does is change where the unit is placed when you do the standard formations. So when you do the shift 1, shift 2, shift 3, this determines where the units end up in those group formations. So it's not a combat thing. It's not significant. Also, in the order of recruitment in the campaign. So we're down now to the soldier line, which is what matters, where things start to matter. And then we have another difference because the number here at the end of the soldier line is for mass. Collision mass. 1 is the default, and Principes have 1.3, so this means that they are better at pushing and retaining their ground, so they can stand their ground better than Hastati. So if they're to get charged by cavalry, Hastati are, cavalry will penetrate the formation deeper, they'll get pushed through better. Or, at the very least, if other infantry push into them, they'll stand their ground better, the Principes. So this is a difference, but it's not a significant one. This is the first real combat performance difference, though. And then the next line that matters is where there's a difference, of course, is armor. So the first value on the armor line is 5 for the Hastati and 7 for the Principes. This is the armor value. This is how we are able to give Hastati 2 armor, silver armor, in the custom battle screen, and have the difference seem to just disappear. That's what we did. We took the Hastati armor up to 7 so that it matches the Principes, and it becomes an even fight, just like that. So that's the second difference. The mass and the armor, and the mass doesn't affect the fight. At least it didn't seem to help them when they were getting charged by Hastati and lost the melee. It wasn't helping them. So mass and armor, and then the next difference is stat heat. And that's for when you're in the desert, which we were there. We were in the desert. So the higher the number, the faster they get tired in deserts. And Hastati have a lower number. So this is the third difference, and it's the second minor difference. And maybe it factors into how those engagements go, but when I was mousing over both units, they were both tired at the same time. So it should not have affected the melee. Not really. It doesn't seem sensible that it would. And then you get down to the next differences. Stat mental. 6 is for morale, so they have the same morale. And then Hastati have normal and trained, whereas Principes have disciplined and highly trained. What this does is affect how aggressive the morale swings when these units get hit with morale shocks. So if you have units that frighten nearby infantry or frighten nearby enemy, Hastati will have their morale affected more quickly. Also, it will recover morale quicker from rallies or from generals being nearby. So if you want a more disciplined unit that isn't as susceptible to morale swings, then Principes are better than Hastati, but this is marginal, this is minor. You don't want your units to be routing at all. And then the next one, highly trained versus trained. And what this does is, it's like a system that has just disappeared from Total War completely. This determines how well they stand in formation in an orderly fashion, how quickly they'll return to their position in the ranks. So with the higher mass and the highly trained here, you should expect Principes to maintain more orderly, robust, unbreakable lines and fight better in a straight fight where they have their shield, their defense skill, all of these things coming into play more consistently and reliably. Because that's what Roman infantry does well. They have high shield, high armor, and decent defense skill, and they have a weapon that attacks quite frequently, and they're meant to just have all of these things that they've done well. They've got a good shield, high quality armor, and they're meant to have fair head-on fights and get off effective stabs. So with a high mass, that means they can't be pushed out of position and have gaps appear, and with highly trained, that means they will be more likely to retain a solid, unbroken, orderly, uniform line. They are going to have less fights where these stats get skirted or are chopped in half, like the armor value getting chopped in half, I think, or defense skill when they get flanked. It's only when they're fighting head on that they manage to use all of their stats to their fullest extent. So that's the idea. That's what this is meant to do. It's arguable if it actually works, but Principes are meant to be better at the Roman infantry ideal that I've described of discipline and order and making use of all of their nice stats. And that's the last difference. That's the last thing that makes them different. So you've got, of significance, mass, a mass difference. You've got armor, that's the second difference. You've got getting tired slightly faster, that's the third difference. You've got disciplined and highly trained, the last differences. So these things are all minor compared to actual melee attack or charge bonus. These things are just really small. It's nice that they're there and that the game simulates these things. It's just, it doesn't have any relevance in a standard flat even fight like the one you just saw. Even the stat heat one for fatiguing in the desert faster. I doubt that really played into that fight that you saw at the end when we won quite convincingly. I don't think that it was down to that. I'm not sure what it is that actually does that, but I don't think it's that. Could test it. Could be ways to test it. I could edit this and see if it gets even more exaggerated. But that would be a video of its own, I think, checking how the stat heat affects fatigue and how fatigue affects combat performance. But it looks like you can have Hastati become Principes, a reskin of Principes, by just giving them 2 armor. And then, effectively, you've got 2 of the same unit running around with different names and different skins. Reskins. And this is, I think, where Rome Total War made one of its few failures in terms of unit differentiation, because this is a really vibrant, living game with a lot of nice ideas and different units. I mean, they did so well with chariots, elephants, phalanxes, phalangites, swordsmen, axemen, head hurlers, fucking incendiary pigs, archers, slingers, skirmishers, cataphracts. There's so much in this game these are all their own classes of units, their own different unit concepts that are represented on the field. But when you're playing as the protagonists of Rome Total War, the Romans, and you're using your front line units, your heavy infantry, your Roman infantry with their scutum and there's their gladius, and then there's scutum down here. These units are just the same. They're just clones of each other with very slight tweaks, and the tweaks are so minor that Principes are just an upgrade of Hastati. They are just Hastati with upgraded armor, just 2 armor added on. And you can prove it by just giving Hastati 2 armor in custom battles and watching them face their match. And I don't think that's good, because Hastati were deployed with Principes. They had a different role in the battlefield. It's like I'm saying at the start with the 3 lines. Hastati are meant to have better stamina, younger, eager to prove themselves on the field and attain glory. They're getting their pride, they're proving themselves as men. And then you've got Principes who have already done that, and they have better armor and they're better disciplined, which is represented. And these are meant to be 2 different arms to one army. They're meant to be operating together, complement each other, fighting in the presence of one another. But in Rome Total War, tragically, that is not represented really at all. It seems like they tried a little bit with these tiny little differences around here and there, but by and large, Principes are just a straight upgrade of Hastati, and as soon as you unlock Principes, you stop making Hastati, at least if you're smart and you want to be effective. Because this 2 armor, extra 2 armor, for the same upkeep, it's just too good. I mean, it's impossible for any of this other stuff to outweigh that 2 armor difference. And yep, that's one of the first examples of a lapse of unit differentiation in Total War. Maybe the first one, because in Shogun 1 and Medieval 1, you had all of these different units that were all well defined pretty much. But with Rome Total War, playing as Rome, you start to see these. This is the first of the reskins, the reskinnings, the faux differentiations, the fake unit diversity, which is the topic I'm thinking about a lot nowadays. Hopefully that was interesting, and hopefully this trend that Rome 2 has just ran away with, like every single fucking infantry unit is just a reskin of the next one. It's like in Rome 2, there's like 12 different units that are all just reskins like this. There's 12 of them. It's so bad. And it's one of the worst things about Modern Total War, I think. The way that we just have reskins all over the place. Units that don't have different roles, but they do have a different name and a different skin. And it's like you're being deceived. You're being cheated into thinking you have different units when you really don't. And that's all I was... And that's what I was thinking here. Hopefully that was interesting.